Well, good morning. This video is particularly for those who were not able to be at the meeting yesterday. I wanted to put together just a snippet of the middle portion of the meeting. You definitely missed some other pieces that you'll find in the email that this video is in. Just a reminder of some things for this week to do with attendance and a shift in schedule for high school. And your small group boxes, just different things like that. Some of the things that we talked about that you missed, you'll, like I said, find in the email. But this is particularly about the Let's Get Practical piece. And so I want to show you these books real quick. These are the two new books that have just come out by Lead Small. And so if you're new this year and it's August has been a long time ago, and Lead Small, I'll say it every once in a while on Wednesday nights, but primarily in our meetings, we are a Lead Small church, both through children's and students. And so what that means is that we believe that we can effectively shepherd a few more than we can shepherd the masses. And so that's why we do small groups, why we do life groups. It's why our children's ministry is wired in that way, our student ministry, and even our adults. And so what that means for us is Think Orange, or the ones who put out Lead Small, have particularly geared the Lead Small concept for different age groups. And for us, that looks like 5 principles. It looks like be present, create a safe place, partner with families, make it personal, and move them out. And we primarily have spent the last year and a half since we've really implemented, and it hadn't been a full year and a half as we've implemented a Lead Small culture. We have focused on be present. I've done it in, we talked a lot more about that one in August than we did the others. Your training videos throughout this semester, coffee talks. We've been talking a lot about you being consistent, you showing up mentally, and you showing up randomly. And those are kind of the 3 things we've talked about throughout the semester. And so showing up consistently, simply meaning that you're here on Wednesday nights. And I'll tell you this too. Essentially what you sign up for when you become a small group leader, meaning when you sign the dotted line, these are the things that I will always follow up with you with. If these things are lacking, then I will follow up with you about these things. So you have signed up to be at 75% or more of Wednesday nights. That's consistent. You've signed up for 2 years. That's consistent. Students need the same people for really longer than 2 years, but 2 years is kind of where I feel like if we were going to make a transition, at least it's, it could be right in the middle of them transitioning from middle school to high school or just developmentally. It might be okay. Maybe a new person could be good, and so 2 years is a good mark. So you've signed up for that. You've signed up to have coffee talks. And so I think you originally signed up to have one once a month. We actually don't have one once a month. You actually have 4 a year. That's it. 4 coffee talks a year. And it's a struggle to get you to come to 4 a year. And so just to put it in perspective and to say that you signed up for that. And then to try to, and then the 2 once semester group training, which is what we had yesterday. Those are the 4 things that you sign up for that what I guess a good word, even though you're a volunteer, you still sign a sheet to say I volunteered to commit to these things. Those are the things that you committed to. Those are the things that were on your contract, mandatory, whatever word you want to use. The rest is above and beyond. So when we say consistently, those are the things you're being consistent to. Wednesday nights and developing as a small group leader for the sake of not to do what I say, not to make yourself better, but for the sake of your small groups and the students in your small group, particularly your few. And just so you know, none of us are there yet, and we will never be there yet. And if you think you are there and you think, I don't need that, the problem with that is there's not going to be a place for you within the student ministry. because we're all moving in that direction, me included. I'm reading and studying and going to conferences all the time. And if you're not willing to do small things to continue to get better for the sake of the students in your few and the student ministry as a whole, then maybe find another place to serve is a good thing. Because consistency is the first thing. If you can't get that, the pieces we think are essentially important for you to be consistent in, the rest is going to be nearly impossible. So consistently is huge. And then showing up mentally. And so you're not just here in physical form, but you're also here in, you're actually here. And we put out NAP for that. Made some jokes yesterday about showing up mentally, and then the acronym is NAP. But anyways, NAP, notes, activities, prayer. That you are taking notes about what your few and even others in your small group are saying on Wednesday night, and you're following up with them about that. You're taking notes about their activities, and you're asking them about how they went, and how did that band concert go? How did that volleyball game go that you were so nervous about? And then prayer. You're asking them, how can you pray for them? And then you're actually doing it. And sometimes you're actually calling them or texting them and actually doing it in front of them or before they leave on Wednesday night. So you're mentally there. They're not just projects. They're people. They're students that God has entrusted to this student ministry, and that I am therefore turning around and trusting to you as small group leaders. That's why you're shepherds. That's why you're not just facilitators or game players or warm bodies. You are shepherds. You are shepherding the lives of students alongside those who are raising them. That's amazing. And so showing up consistently, showing up mentally, absolutely important. And then what you don't necessarily sign a dotted line for, but we put in the contract of try to do these things, is showing up randomly. So trying to go to an event that we put on once a year, a trip, etc. Trying to go to a volleyball game or a basketball game or a band concert, or there's a few principles that, I talk about here, things like tragedy. That's showing up randomly. If a grandma dies, that you're at if you can't go to the funeral, you're at the family night, or you at least stop by the house. And I always try to text you when I hear things. And some of you have had that even in the past few months. And those are great opportunities. You hate that it comes in that way, but those are great opportunities to show up randomly, that they realize, oh my gosh, they just don't care about me on Wednesday nights. They actually care about me. Things like what I call just me and you. That could be a coffee. That could be with a boy. You go, hey, meet me at the church. Have your dad drop me off if you got, and schedule it with their dad and shoot some hoops or play some horse or, just me and you moments. Those can be big, particularly with high school students. Middle school students, it can get a little weird. They're still young. Probably want to do things in groups, but with high schoolers, just a me and you coffee, fantastic idea. Just me and you Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the Cowboy game. Amazing. And then if dad wants to be there too. So anyways, I could go on and on and on about those things, but the principles is showing up consistently, showing up mentally. That's what you've signed the dotted line for. If you're not doing those things, those are the things I tend to try to go, hey, you need to do these things, and if not, maybe it's a good chance for you to just move out. Not because we don't love you, not because we don't think you'd be great. Maybe it's just not the right season, time. Maybe this isn't the right ministry. Randomly are the things that many of you are moving towards, just because if I want to get great things out of Wednesday night, I have to be willing to do things outside of Wednesday night. And you're never going to have enough time to give them what they want on Wednesday night, or to get what you think they need on Wednesday night. I can never give you the whole night just for small group. It doesn't work that way. But you can do other things outside of Wednesday nights to do that. And so be present, showing up consistently, mentally, and randomly. That's kind of where we've been camping. But now we're moving into create a safe place. And really the next, I would say 2 years. I think it takes 2 years to at least catapult culture. And I think we've done some of this in the first year and a half. We've kind of merged these two things. But creating a safe place. So now you're going beyond just being a leader, and now you're beginning to cultivate a culture within your small group. And that takes time. Lots of time. Things like making new students feel welcome, things like getting students to actually talk, things like making your small group a unique experience each week. I mean, all kinds of different things that are mixed in there that's not just about we actually have enough students and enough leaders and we can actually maybe every once in a while get something out of them. Many of your groups have moved past that point. And so what I want to do now is I'm not going to go through this whole book. The way we're going to do it is the way I did it yesterday. And so probably for about 10 more minutes. I expect this video to be somewhere between 20 to 25 minutes, which is how long I talked about it yesterday. The Let's Get Practical piece of the Art of Group Talk is I want to hit the first 2 principles. Then there's 5 principles within this big principle of creating a safe place. And they've come out with a book to address those 5 principles called The Art of Group Talk. And it's fantastic. I'm going to be ordering these for you, so you're going to have these. But let me dive into the first 2 principles in this video, and then over the next 3 months, the training video at the first of each month will be the other principle. And then you'll also at some point get this book in front of you. And so by the fall, we've at least addressed all of it, and then we can start cultivating it and just keep talking about it. Say the same thing over and over until we're sick of it and we begin seeing it. And so here are the 2 main principles I'm going to talk about today. The first is prepare. And the second is connect. So within this prepare, there's 4 things that you need to know. The first is, I'm going to go a different color here. Is read. So the idea of prepare is if you're going to have a safe place, if you're going to have a place that students feel comfortable in and students feel like is their place with their people, you're going to need to begin cultivating that. Which means if you're still primarily spending all of your time fumbling through the questions and the lessons, or you're just reading through hoping to get through the whole lesson, or whatever that looks like, then you're missing it. That's not what we're aiming for. What we're aiming for is that you've already prepped that, prepared that. You have condensed it to fit your group so that you can actually begin cultivating some other things alongside the actual lesson. And that's important. Not that we throw the lesson out. The lesson still becomes the center point of that cultivation, but you use that lesson to go, okay, we're talking about identity this Wednesday, and I know this is going on, and so this is a great opportunity to go, we're not just going to learn about it, but we're going to apply it and begin cultivating what it looks like to have a healthy understanding of identity in our group. And so then all of a sudden you're not focusing on your lesson, you're focusing on how can the lesson be used to grow and sanctify your group. That's cultivation of creating a safe place. And so the first way you do that is you read. In other words, every week you get an email from me. And some of you don't read that email. And the problem with that is that email, and I love this because this is not me saying this, this is a group of people who have done this for a long time going, if the small group leader and the youth minister are on 2 different pages, you'll never create a safe place. You'll never create a culture of lead small. And I truly believe that. That's why I put together this email. That's why I go, here's where we're heading. Here's the questions. You don't have to do all of them, but here's the things that come to my mind, and you can reword them for your group. You can just take 2 out of the 5 for your group. Here's why I put the Bible study in front of you as high school leaders, because this is where I want to head and have our students grab a hold of some of these key truths, but you're going to know your group, and so how do I make that relevant for my group? How do I maybe sometimes dumb it down for my group? How do I take 2 weeks and talk about 1 lesson with my group? And so you are reading those things, and you've actually seen them. That's important. The app is another part of that. The second thing, which I think goes hand in hand, is this idea of, and I'll make sure I don't misspell this, rehearse. Yeah. Is rehearsing it. Just to give you an idea, before Wednesday night, I rehearse my lesson maybe 2 or 3 times. Before Sunday morning, significantly longer. I want to use my notes a lot less. I probably rehearse it sometimes 5 or 6 more, sometimes 4 or 5. I think I said 5 or 6 yesterday. A lot of times it lands right around the 4 mark because there's usually 2 times it's just kind of skimming through it. But that's in 1 week of prepping something that I'm about to present to individuals. And for you, that's significantly shorter because with middle school, you're not actually teaching a lesson. And with high school, that's probably about right. I mean, you want to go over it 2 or 3 times. You want to prepare, rehearse. You want to rehearse what you're going to do. So that's when it comes into play of going, okay, I love where we're heading this week, but this is going to be a hard question for my girls or my boys. And so how can I take this question and reword it to still get where Nick wants us to go, but to help our students get it? So rehearse. You want to read and rehearse. Those are preparatory actions. The other 2 things, and I'll say these quickly because you're going to see pack in your book that you get a lot. But the other part of preparing is packing. This is why you have a small group box. There's some great ideas that they give you in this book, and they call it the survival kit. And I just call it your small group box because it has your journals in there and some Bibles and getting to know you cards and new student cards and pens. So the necessary stuff that, and some of you have asked for some other things and we put them in there, but they give you some great ideas. Things like tissue boxes. If you've got, and you're always looking for tissue boxes, you're wasting time. So tell us and we'll put tissue boxes in there. Things like confetti poppers for when you have new students. You all pull out a confetti popper and say their name and pop it, and it's exciting and it's fun and it's loud and probably can work for middle schoolers more than high schoolers, but you could get creative and other things. They talk about things like deck of cards or maybe like some sort of a game that, particularly with boys, when they get off, you can go, hey, okay, let's play a game of war. Y'all on this side, y'all on this side. You do it, and all of a sudden they're back together all as one doing something, and then maybe you get one more question in. Maybe you don't get all 5, but maybe you got one before, you play war, one after. That's a big success for middle school boys. Things like icebreaker balls, and you can erase and write on them each week, and maybe that's how you start your group. All kinds of different things that can be in your small group box. You just have to tell us. We're going to order some of these things in bulk and just put them in each box, particularly things like tissue boxes, confetti poppers, things like that I think some of you could use. And in your email below, you're going to find how you get access to your box differently this semester. Because we're putting all that stuff in, I don't just want to set them out around the church. And so look at that in the email. But packing, maybe there's some things you want to do to help students talk or different things like that. Just be creative and go, how can I prepare for any situation that I'm faced with on Wednesday and have what I need to address it? And then the last thing is pray. And sometimes I want to go, let's put this first. Because you should pray as you're reading the email. You should pray as you're rehearsing it. God, help, how should I shift or change this? You should pray. How can I be better prepared with things? It should be a constant prayer of God. This is your small group. These are your students. I'm just a vessel being used for your kingdom, for your glory. Trying to do the best I can. Gonna mess up, and I know your grace covers it. And so there's constant prayer, but there's also specific prayer for that week that you've spent some time, not just reading, rehearsing, and packing, but praying over all of it and giving it back to the Lord. And so preparing this idea of, if you will come to Wednesday nights, and I think some of this plays into showing up mentally with the be present piece, but that's more being present with your students. Creating a safe place is more of creating the actual environment in which your small group operates out of or in. And being prepared is a huge part of that. If you're not prepared, your students are going to see it. They're going to know it. You're going to have a situation have nothing to do with being able to handle it. And then all of a sudden you've just wasted 25 minutes. And that's a bummer because we're a lead small student ministry. We're a lead small church, which means if you've wasted the 25 minutes of being in a small group, you've essentially helped waste the whole night for those students. And so being prepared is absolutely important. Sorry, my computer went black here. Okay. So being prepared. So keep those things in mind. The other thing is this concept of connect. And this happens in two ways. The first is you get them to connect with you, and then you get them to connect with each other. And both of these are important. And so when you talk about connect with them, there's some things embedded in that. First is a great chance to connect prior to small group. So this can be built into our programming. Pre-small group time, we're working really hard to have some defined spaces with things like games, and we're wanting to redo the cafe and kind of have that as a place. Boys love to go outside. Sometimes girls like to sit out there if the weather's nice. We've talked about fire pits downstairs, but connecting with them before small group will set up your small group. This is why we've built in a pre-small group time, is for you to have that. And look, the students are here. Like we have turned that corner where when I first came, we tried doing things before Wednesday night. That's not what they did. But now it's happening. They're here. They come at 5:30, and so what a sweet blessing for high school. That time at the beginning around fireplaces, sitting in the lobby waiting for middle school to get out. Those are opportune moments to be connecting them with you. Other ways to do this are things like group text, and just know group text can be good or bad. You need to really fill out your group on that. And also realize if you're middle school, make sure at some point during the month, and particularly if you don't know the parents very well, you need to be including them in all of those things. Things such as Sunday mornings is a great time to be connecting before Wednesday night small group, and then of course going all the way back to showing up randomly. Those are great ways to connect before small group. All of those connecting points are going to help you get to where you want to get quicker on Wednesday nights. And look, I'm telling you, this is true. Because all of a sudden, as we've introduced discipleship in our church and our life group, everybody in our life group right now is in some sort of discipleship relationship with someone else in our life group, minus one or two. It has changed drastically the first 45 minutes of our time together. We have a hard time getting out of fellowship into small group, and then we have a hard time staying focused in small group, in the life group, talking through, because we want to go in tons of different directions. Because we're comfortable with each other. We've connected with each other throughout the week, and then we come back together, and it's amazing what happens. And so before small group, secondly, of course, small talk at the first part of small group, that's important. This is where those things like icebreaker balls, confetti poppers, those type of things, we have a moment together before we actually dive into the deep. And all of a sudden we're on the same page. Laughing, something you can laugh together, a funny story, highs and lows. I know one of our groups does that. Things like that. Now we're on the same page. Okay, now let's keep moving forward. The other big important piece here is you want to be connecting with new students. And there's some ways to connect with new students. The three things that I talked about yesterday is, one is you want to use their name a lot. Learn it and say it 4 or 5 times during their first week. And all of a sudden they don't feel like a new student. They feel like, they know my name, and then other students start using their name, and they're not just that side kid. So maybe you have a confetti poppy moment. You all say their name together, and then you use their name 4 or 5 times. That alone will make a student feel welcome. Then things like learning about them. They're going to need to know how much you care before they care how much you know. And if they're a new student, that's going to be even more important. And so learning about them, what's something that you're hearing or have heard, or then the next piece is something that you can relate with or find common ground in, and talk about that with them before, after, during, if it fits, but bring them in quickly. That first week is pivotal. If that first week they go home and have to second guess coming back, we might get them back, we might not. But if they have to go home going, I felt so loved, and that's all they got out of that night, that's a win. It's a big win. You can't conquer all the battles at one time. Pick the small ones and let those build into bigger ones. And then of course, connecting during a small group. And I think this is really easy when you go when you think about it in like a last minute touch concept, kind of last minute, a question right before you're diving in. Like I said, some of you do high and lows, but even just a question about something from last week that somebody brought up that you want to revisit again because we were all there together, and it's a good chance to be together again before we move to new stuff. And so, connecting with them, you personally connecting with them, pre-small group, first bit of small group, new students, and during small group. But then you also want to connect them with each other. This is important. This is creating a safe place. They have a safe person. Every person needs a person. But they also have a safe place. Every person needs a place. They have a place in which there is a group of students who they are connecting with. And you don't always want that to be simply on their hobbies or their schools, because those things will fall apart. It has to eventually get to Jesus, but you have to work to get there. So things such as icebreakers, connecting them through their interests can be a way of doing that. Just don't let that be the end all. So if they're both into baseball, hey, did you know that he plays baseball? Or did you know that she plays the piano? Did y'all know that? And you're connecting. But that means reverse. You have to be there mentally and have to know these things. Things like connecting them with someone new can be a way in which you're connecting your group, because if the quicker your students learn how to connect to new students, the quicker you realize your place is a safe place. And that's that, once again, kind of that confetti popper idea. And then the other thing I'd like to say here was someone new, or just someone across the group that they've been in group forever, but you never see them talk. One of the ideas here is to go about, maybe once a week or once every other, or once a month. Maybe you do something where you split them off into twos or threes, and you give them one of the questions to think about beforehand, and then you all come back together and those three give their answer. So they're having to talk about it, and then they bring it back to the group. So it's not awkward one-on-one, but it's like maybe there's one who really likes to talk in a big group, and they're the one who give that answer, but they're all talking in the small group because it's just three people. Or maybe you do that with prayer. Why don't you two go pray with each other? And you switch that up and change it up. A great way to, help students be able to talk when they're never going to talk in a big circle. But then also it gives them a chance to connect with each other. And so you want to have them connect with you, but you also want to have them connect with each other. And you're going to have to get creative with those things. And so when you think about the art of group talk within the context of creating a safe place, the word group is key there. It's not just one, it's not just three, it's not just you. So if they're hearing solely from you, stop talking. Figure out ways to get them to talk. Don't let that be a cop-out. Well, I've tried. Well, I'm telling you, it can happen. And so make sure that you are prepared and you are working your tail off to connect with your students. And remember, it's much more manageable when you think of my few. So we have a safe place, but within that we have two leaders. Some of you have three, where you each have your few. And so instead of a group of 10, you have to think of a 4 to 5. That's much more manageable. And some of you less than that. And so have them connect with you, but then also be working together to connect them to each other. The art of group talk, it's going to be great. I'm excited about this semester and moving towards kind of this second principle takes time, but we're going to get there. Keep plugging along. Love you guys. We'll see you Wednesday.